Since moving to its current location in 1909, Boston's Museum of Fine Arts has been a mecca for art that inspires. Its gallery's home to 500,000 works of art. But outside, greeting visitors daily on Huntington Avenue since 1912, only one piece has endured.
It appeared in a show in Paris and won an award, and it's been here in front of the building ever since.
Appeal to the Great Spirit is the work of acclaimed American sculptor Cyrus Dallin, who also designed the Paul Revere statue in the North End. While both have become Boston icons, the museum statue has drawn flack for what critics say is its submissive posture and lack of connection to the native tribes from the land on which it stands.
Dallin himself grew up in the American West, so we have a kind of anonymous figure representing indigeneity in a kind of stereotypical way for the time in which it was made.
Enter The Knowledge Keepers, an installation sponsored by the museum's Huntington Avenue Entrance Commission, featuring 2 new sculptures created by Native American artist Alan Michelson. We spoke with Michelson from his New York home to talk about his work, subjects, and Boston roots.
I moved to Boston with my family when I was 9 years old, and I went to Boston Public Schools just around the corner from the museum.
And what were your first thoughts then when you get approached about this project?
Well, I was excited. Who wouldn't be?
How'd you come up with sort of the concept, broader concept of the Knowledge Keepers?
There was such an aura of doom around that other sculpture. If not death of that rider, sort of a death of a people and a culture. And, it's not the case.
The subjects for these statues include one we've met before.
Andre is an activist and has his own nonprofit called No Loose Braids. So him speaking seemed to be the right thing for him.
Artist Julia Marden is a member of the Wampanoag tribe of Aquinnah. The Vermont resident recalls the day she got the big news.
And at first, I thought someone was messing with me, to be honest. It's an overwhelming honor and privilege.
Marden teaches native twine weaving techniques, including some thought lost to time.
Twine basketry was extremely important. It was utilitarian and every household had to have it. And the twine cape is something more extravagant. Not everybody would have that.
She spent a year creating this turkey feather cape.
All I had was descriptions of it. And so I had to basically teach myself how I felt it was constructed.
For her MFA statue, Marden traveled to New York, where every detail, from her eagle fan, handmade of course, to her earrings, was photographed and scanned. But nothing could prepare her for the final work.
We were driving to the opening for the event. I looked over and got the first glance and just blurted out, "There I am."
Both statues are cast in bronze but gilded in platinum.
I wanted that glow, I wanted that shine, plus it's just incredible looking.
Do you have a hope for how people will receive this?
I'm trying to change the associations that sort of exude from the Dallin into something that's really about life and continuity and the future.
The ocean is warming, and ice is melting.
It doesn't take very much expansion of that huge mass of water to make a difference in sea level.
Looking through a fresh lens often reveals that things appearing vastly different on the surface may share surprising similarities.
I think something that Larry and I were really intentional about was figuring out how the dance wasn't going to only interpret the data of the science, but how the art and the science could create together on sort of this equal footing.
Jessie Jean Stinnett, owner of Boston Dance Theater, is working in an unexpected partnership with Dr. Larry J. Pratt, a scientist at the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution, renowned for his studies in ocean physics. two different languages, perhaps best understood at the intersection of expression.
It was a very sort of easy conversation to start thinking about how we wanted to bring embodied practice and dance and performance together with some of the principles of ocean physics that he and his scientific team are always trying to figure out how to communicate with the general public, which we can sort of do in a really special way.
A few years ago, the two met at a movement workshop. Thus, the Surge performance was born, a participatory dance work by BDT, a contemporary dance company. In this unique experience, audience members interact with performers and scientists, witnessing dance while engaging in meaningful dialogue about the climate crisis and the current sea level rise.
We have done a lot of research together. So Larry has come into the studio with us many times. We've studied Milankovitch cycles and how the orbits influence the tides, and we have worked to devise creative responses to the science.
Essentially, the dancers translate data into expressive movement.
Movement that is either reflective of or its implications, or just sort of brings forward a feeling that that information is trying to communicate.
Wow, it's all very interesting, and there's now a Surge Coastal Community Fellowship, a 2-month residency for Black, Indigenous, and people of color artists in coastal areas threatened by rising sea levels.
And back to the MFA, when Appeal to the Great Spirit was first installed, which was back in 1912, it was supposed to be a temporary exhibit, actually, but of course here it is more than 110 years later, still there. As for the Knowledge Keepers, they're supposed to be there about a year, but who knows, maybe 100 years from now, they'll be there as well.
All right, still ahead, painting with light.